A lot of you are scaredy cats. A lot of you guys don't want to cut timber. Well, I'm here to show you what it looks like the year after we cut. The aesthetics of it, guys, in certain areas with the treetops and things like that, I'm not going to lie to you. Some of you would be upset with the way it looks, and in a perfect world, they take everything that they can, or they pile those tops strategically. But more importantly to me, guys, it's not about having a pretty property. If you got a pretty property, you probably don't have a lot of big deer. So what does this property look like 1 year after the timber cut? And I'll tell you what our plans are and how we're going to manage it so that this property stays damn good and stays thick and stays having more food than years past. And by the way, we cut 500 oaks off this property. White oaks. Okay, I know a lot of you just had a heart attack. I understand that. That would pain a lot of you. But I'm telling you, the guy who does this for a living just did it. I'm not telling you to go necessarily do it, but understand that it is a possibility. So, after 1 year of regrowth, not really, I'm going to call it 1 year or 1 month of the growing season, but we're 1 year at post-cut. We did it at the end of a summer and didn't really have the chance to regen at that point. But now we're about a month and a half in to this regen process. I can't believe how much regeneration we already have, guys. We have knee-high regen in some of these areas that were cut a little bit heavier. We have a correlating bedding area that was, I'll be honest, accidentally cut, but I'm glad it was, right next to a food source that already has knee-high, even maybe some waist-high grasses and forbs. We got to keep in mind that deer will eat grasses, but they're really an animal that likes to browse on forbs more than anything. Not similar to cattle in that way. So I'm super pumped about that. So another thing that I hear about, guys, from a lot of you is you talk about that heyday. What do I mean by the heyday, guys? Well, a lot of you guys talk about, man, we did a timber cut, we cleared out some pines, we cleared out the hardwoods, and about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish years after that, it was dang good hunting. But then every year after that, well, you don't even really realize it. I kind of have to help people realize what happened. But all of a sudden, it just got worse. Well, what happened was the regeneration that took place in year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ultimately grew up to be mature timber and created a new canopy so that there was not enough habitat at the deer's level down below, and those deer moved off. So I can tell you right now, year 1, 2, 3, 4 in this area, just by timber cutting it and not going in and honing into certain areas, which I'm going to tell you how to do in this video. Don't click away yet. This was only step 1. So going back to that heyday, guys, one thing that we're going to do on this property in strategic locations and in phases is we're going to come in and we're going to burn areas every 3 to 4 years. Why are we going to burn every 3 to 4 years? Because that heyday that you talk about, guys, when those trees end up flourishing and get too tall in year 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we don't maintain habitat, well, the property just gets worse. So if we add fire to our arsenal and to our long-term plan every 3 to 4 years, it knocks it back down. It knocks it back down. Knocks it back down. And now we're not going to go and blow out the whole property on a 3 to 4 year cycle in the same year. But now we do this 5 acres or 20 acres or 10 acres every 4 years. And then we do the next 20 acres over a year later on a 4 year cycle, so that we have different regrowth, different age class diversity on this property. So that's another thing that we're definitely going to do to maintain the cover on this property so that the heyday is every day on this property. Now, here's the thing, guys. A lot of you screw this up. A lot of you guys go and hinge cut or create these nests or these bedding areas for these deer to spend time in. And I understand why you do it. You're trying to do what you can with the time you got and the equipment that you got. A lot of you guys are afraid to log, but if logging is in your future, log right now. And when you do log, guys, don't just pick some random Joe Blow. There's a process that you need to follow. Tree minimum, dates, get it in a contract. Like, don't let somebody give you a handshake deal. And, you know, there's percentages we need to be getting paid based off of the heart. There's a lot of different ways to go about that. But anyway, we'll get to that later. But after the cut is done, now we go in and we hone in on some of these areas and create the nests. How am I going to create some nests to ultimately just place deer in small areas, which makes the hunting more predictable? How am I going to do that? Well, I don't love hinge cutting, guys, and I rarely do it. I did a little bit on this property to do some screening. The only other time I will think about hinge cutting is to create the nest. What do I mean by that? A lot of times I'll go to these strategic areas that I want to put a nest in, a good topo feature that a buck can use on a predominant wind, but I can hunt it as well on an off wind, and he thinks that he's safe there, but in reality he's not. and I can sneak close enough because we did a timber cut and it's thick enough. But anyway, these hinge cuts, the only place I'm going to do them is in these strategic areas that I decide I want to put them, and I'm going to put 3 to 5, maybe 6, half a dozen trees hinge cut in a half moon nest, so that this deer can back into these areas and he's got a backdrop and maybe he can overlook a bottom. Maybe he's got a vantage point, a place that he already liked to be in the past, but you could never get close to because the timber was too wide open and he was busting you from 200 yards away or 100 yards away. Well, now because the timber's thicker, we can get closer. We can put him into this nest. He can look down below and we might just be off wind over here, but now he can't see us because this nest, he's kind of hunkered back in this nest. And also outside of that nest in which we hinge cut a couple trees, we're going to do some girdling. All right, guys, so what is girdling and why am I going to do that outside these nests? Girdling is where you cut into a tree, maybe once, maybe twice, cut an exterior ring around the tree, connect it on the backside, and you can even add some herbicide, and I would probably recommend it, as you're not afraid of using herbicide, to kill that tree standing so that sunlight can now come through the floor, come through the canopy, and basically create a lot of regen. So I'm okay with leaving these trees dead standing. Everybody's like, well, I don't want to go in those areas because it's going to tip over and kill me. You're being dramatic. That doesn't happen, guys. It takes a long time for those trees to tip over. And the whole point of it is to now add like another edge, a form of edge habitat outside that initial little nest. Now we have some girdling down on some less desirable trees. Don't go girdling some oaks, guys, like your white oaks and stuff like that. I mean, unless you absolutely had to, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd rather you cut them during the timbering process and get paid for them and put some money in your pocket and fund the operation. But now I'm going to go and I'm going to look around for like my smooth bark hickories, my shag bark hickories, my hackberries, my cherries, my less desirable trees. And I'm not going to cut every single one of them, but I'm going to cut a fair amount so that outside that nest we have another physical barrier. And then outside that physical barrier where we did the hack and squirt or the girdling, which I prefer girdling, we're going to have the logging. And then that's probably where we're going to be sitting within 100 yards. And if we would have never done any of this, we probably wouldn't be able to get close to these deer. We probably wouldn't be able to kill them with a bow. You probably have a good gun hunting property. But at the end of the day, this is all stuff you guys should know so that if you are going to move forward with logging, what to do next. Don't do this in reverse order. And what you can expect in year number 1, which is what we got here. Year number 2, year number 3, year number 4, you better start taking care of it, managing with fire. And if you're afraid of fire, guys, here's what I will say. I'll give you a little quick tip because you hung around until the end of this video. Do you have to use fire? No. Should you? Absolutely. It's the most underrated habitat improvement. But another thing we can do is we can come in here with a forestry mulcher, hire on a forestry mulcher, reset a lot of this regrowth. And it's not the best way to do it, but it's better than not resetting it. Ultimately giving it that 3 to 4 year reset, moving on to the next area, 3 to 4 year reset. Now we have the heyday every day on a given property because he followed those steps.